YouTube! What the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here. I've been promising you an Ethereal Vampires build for quite a while. This is the build I'm going to attempt to use. I'm gonna give the credit here to Ninja Hun. I pretty much saw this build from him. I've used different versions of it. I haven't found a whole lot of success with this army, but some people do pretty well with it up against certain factions. I think it's probably easiest to use against the greenskins. It would be extremely risky to use against someone like the Wood Elves or the Empire, who have a lot more magic damage type units. So why an all ethereal build? Mostly just for fun. But what does it have as a strength? Well, it's pretty quick moving. Most of these ethereal units are pretty fast. They have physical resistance at 80%, meaning if an army doesn't have magical damage, that basically 8 out of 10 hits for them are going to be useless, or 80% of the damage that you try to apply to them is not going to apply if it's just physical damage. And they have armor piercing, but their attack is low. They don't hit a whole lot, but when they do pretty solid damage. They're easy to heal because ethereal units, to make up for the fact that they resist 80% of physical damage, basically they have low hit points, which makes them very easy to blob heal. So that's the appeal of something like this, is that you can get these units, you might be able to get them into the right blob, and you can heal them. Manfred is a pretty good support for this type of thing. Basically what I like to do is bring his Sword of Unholy Power, and then you can mess around with the spells. Sometimes you might want to try Purple Sun of Zerus or Wind of Death. This build I didn't bring either one, because I was kind of hoping to go up against the greenskins, and that is the opportunity I got, but can I pull it off? Let's see. It's not an automatic win versus greenskins. It is a pretty decent army in some respects because the greenskins will struggle against it. In this case, my opponent brought a pretty cool army, which was a goblin army, where he had just leveled up a bunch of standard gobos and a few others just to get their leadership up high. Now, normally a goblin army would probably be quite suicidal versus this build, because another nice thing about wraiths is they cause terror, and you can rout out an army like goblins in no time. But since these goblins have upgraded stats, their leadership should be considerably higher. You can see they sit at 73 leadership, which is pretty considerable. And when they're around their Night Goblin War Boss or one of the Gobbo Big Bosses, they'll be a pretty substantial force. So when I first saw his army, I was like, I don't think this is going to go good for him. But I didn't take the time to scout out the chevrons and the leadership level. I just figured he had units hiding. So I figured that the goblins were only part of this and that he would have hidden units somewhere. Now he is working at Morgrub's Mangy Marauders. It won't do a whole lot because it's not magic damage. I was thinking he was going to bring Wurzag, which Effigy had to get scared me a little bit because it would be very good against a Banshee, but he didn't. So I'm going to bring Manfred up, drop some skeleton warriors on his Goblobber, or whatever, Hammer Gork, my bad. And I'm going to go ahead and engage one flank of his army. I'm going to bring in the Banshee and all the Cairn Wraiths. And the rest of his army is going to attempt to outflank me over here. And I'm just going to use Raise the Dead to slow that down. See, my skeletons pretty nicely going to put an end. Now, I did an AI attack order, and you can see one of my Banshees actually came through the line. And really, I should be over here doubling up on this Gobbo Big Boss and then pinning him in from behind here. That was my real intention. But this was a pretty bad micro mistake on my part because I lost track of that Banshee over there. Also, there's a Night Goblin Shaman here with Sneaky Stealing. This guy should have also been a target pretty early on because they'll take away a lot of potential Winds of Magic for you. But Manfred's Sword does help him pick up Winds of Magic at a pretty outstanding pace. You can see I'm just kind of taking my time with Manfred, just thinking about where I want to bring him in. And I'm going to try and stop some of this outflanking over here. I keep overcasting skeletons, and every time I overcast it keeps hurting me, so I'm not having the best of luck with the overcast this time. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But I did manage to break his leadership, and I was like, all right, sweet. We got a wrap-up started. We're just going to keep rolling down the line here, and we should be able to just pour through his leadership. But again, I hadn't done a good job scouting out the leadership level of his units. And these upgraded goblins are, especially with Wa, are going to absolutely annihilate skeletons. No doubt about it. I haven't done a good answer to his arrows yet because I haven't been particularly concerned with them. The biggest thing I need to be afraid about with his arrows is Manfred. And Manfred is... I've lost track of him. He's over here. Yeah, Manfred was down here after one of the Gobbo big bosses. But yeah, we're just fighting away. His guys take a very long time to do damage to my units, but unfortunately, like right here, I let this Hex Wraith get away from me. So, didn't save that Hex Wraith, which was unfortunate for me. And you can see his archers shooting at me. I decide not to chase them. I should have come over here and just raised the dead on them. A zombie right there in the middle of them would have done really nice work up against the Rusty Heirs. Instead, I decide to land, so probably another questionable decision on my part. And all the while, I had 2 whole Cairn Wraiths and a Banshee back here that I had kind of lost track of, and they were just killing some standard goblins when I really need them up in this fight. And again, the Night Gobbo Shaman would be a good target, and the war bosses need to be dealt with. So I haven't done a really good job of just getting the goblin leadership off the field. Now my opponent, I don't know if he's waiting or mismicroing like me. It could be either one. I have no idea. I don't live in his head. But Manfred here, I'm just kind of dodging around, trying to stay away from some of the archer fire. He's not doing a ton of damage to me, but it is good steady damage. And I'm going to bring all these units back in order to join me over here. Again, my Cairn Wraiths are easy to keep alive. I've used an Invocation to Heck, which should heal up Manfred pretty nicely as well. So we're going to easily get all of our Cairn Wraiths healed. And I'm going to try and get back over here. I need to take my time and try and surround these goblins to get the terror. I do get on their flank right here, and then I put a zombie in behind them. Again, I'm hoping to terrorize these gobbos and just get a good chain route going. But with their goblin big boss right here and all the chevrons, you can see it's not working. So typically where goblins break apart pretty easy here, it's just not happening. You see that stand your ground, the leadership, and the wah. So my opponent has done a pretty good job here, and so far I've played a little sloppy on a few points. And his play hasn't been perfect either, but the leadership upgrades for his goblins are paying dividends right now. And even though they're surrounded, he's able to keep them in the fight. And I do have my Banshees working on the Gobbo Big Boss now. And the Gobbo Big Boss is in a fair bit of trouble up in the middle of this fight, but my Banshees kind of keep getting distracted on all of his infantry too, and they're not able to consistently attack him. I should have been much more deliberate about attacking. And then again, this guy needs to be taken out. So the 2 Banshees are up in here. My Cairn Wraiths are struggling a little bit with their leadership, and Manfred continues to take fire. These Rusty Heirs are actually a pretty big problem, and I don't know why I haven't dropped a Raise the Dead on them at this point. I really don't. I think I did have the magic. I decided to get down in the fight and try and get rid of the Gobbo Big Boss, because if we can kill him and get the penalty from the Lord being gone, I'm feeling pretty confident that I can go ahead and just finish this fight. It's probably taken longer than it should have. And I've got him surrounded, and we're going to do pretty immense damage to the Big Boss. He's getting support from, the big bosses, but the Goblin War Boss is, like I said, taking some pretty considerable damage. But Manfred's taking damage in the process too. These Moon Howlers have actually gotten a pretty spectacular number of kills. I don't know if it was on skeletons or something else like that. Fortunately, if these guys are shooting at Manfred, they're not going to have the world's best shot at him, but they will get some damage done. You see, the Night Gobbo Big Boss actually is terrified, and he routs, but I'm not able to finish him, and he's going to get away from the fight. So Manfred's too weak to chase him. So I'm in actually pretty bad shape now, because I did get rid of the War Boss and a bunch of his troops routed, but they'll come back. That's what goblins do. They just keep coming back, and I haven't gotten rid of the Rusty Heirs. I've let them do way too much work on Manfred. I could have just done a Raise the Dead on them way earlier. So now it's going to end up being a pretty close fight here. The Greenskins, or the Bloody Hands in this case, don't really have the best answer to what I'm trying to do here, but at the same time, with Manfred running low on health and unable to support, that's going to leave the Goblins in pretty good shape. But again, they're starting to lose a big boss due to the terror, but the potion here has brought the Night Goblin War Boss up. I forget that the Rusty Arrows are around. They even get terrorized right here. And again, just a simple summon would have done the trick here. Haven't dealt with the Shaman, and he gets an itchy nuisance off, so all these things are adding up. I should have dealt with the Shaman and the big bosses or something first. I had to take the Goblin leadership away, and right here you can see the Rusty Heirs come back from routing. I lost track of these guys, and they're going to start shooting Manfred, and Manfred's going to die, which is going to put me in really bad shape. I was trying to keep Manfred close by for leadership, but now it's going to be a matter of whether or not I can tank out his units. My Banshees are in pretty good health, but my can wraiths are getting pretty weak, and the goblin units just keep coming back because I haven't taken their leadership off the field. And then these rusty heirs are just going to be firing away and doing steady damage to my units. So yeah, it's definitely been pretty mismanaged. So when you have this build, get your Banshees busy. If you're playing against the Greenskins, get them in there against the leadership. Use your Raise the Dead to shut down archers and to create fear from attacking Greenskin units in the back. And basically use that to your advantage. Again, you can see the leadership stayed in the fight, so the Greenskins just don't rout. I can't take them off the battlefield. And I continually try and do damage, and we do. We do good damage when we're able to focus. You see the Night Goblin War Boss taking steady damage, but there's just too many units left at this point, and I'm not going to be able to pull out the victory. All I've got left is 2 Banshees. So kudos to my opponent. He did play better than me here, and hopefully you all got some tips on how to better manage this build. Be smart with your healing. If you do go up against the Greenskins, be aware that you've got to remove that Night Goblin Shaman. It'll help give you more magic. And any arrows like this are a priority to get rid of, because with these arrows, Manfred can be pressured. Without them, they can't really do anything to Manfred, and he will be too much for him to handle. And you can use Manfred with the Banshees to help take out Lords and Heroes. So that's kind of the way to handle it. Should have taken out the archers, should have dropped some skeletons or zombies in on the mobile archers as well, and we would have been able to deal with them, I think, fairly successfully. But yep, mistakes on my part, gonna lead it to a defeat. 1 Banshee's down, the other one's crumbling. Here goes this nasty ethereal lady, going back to the grave where she belongs. Kudos to the Bloody Hands player. Good job, Danny. Interesting army too. Cool to see you taking an all-goblin build, especially against the vampires. That was pretty risky, bro. And give you major kudos for it. It was a fun battle.